you so much for making your way through the weather to get here today. At least it has not been as severe as they said, but it's still just gross. So we appreciate you getting here and glad you made it safely. We'll call this meeting of our School Safety and Security Committee to order, and our time is 4:01, and just to try to honor our time and get you home before maybe this round of severe does get here, we'll try to move through this, but giving it the amount of time it needs, and at the same time try to make sure that we keep the meeting moving today. And I'll just remind all of you, something that we've talked about a lot is safety is a journey. It's not a destination. Right? There is no magic formula. There is no vote we can have. There is no one thing that anybody can do to make our schools perfectly safe. There's just a variety of threats and challenges that we face not only in our schools but just as a community, just in general. This is a great opportunity for us to talk about those things and make decisions as we move forward. And we're fortunate tonight that we'll get to share some information about bond funds that are available, because one of the constant hurdles is money. At the same time, even with the amount of money that's been allocated through the bond, it's not going to be able to purchase everything in the world. So we'll have we'll get to have that discussion. So let's start with item number one. Consider and approve the minutes. I know they were emailed out. I don't know if anybody has any changes or corrections that you saw needed to be made. If not, we would accept a motion to approve those. Not everybody at once. Ethan, thank you. All right, a second. Do we have a second? Second, Chief. Any conversation or changes that you saw needed to be made? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, if you would raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Beautiful. Thank you. All right, item 2, consider and approve Staying Safe School Safety Response Training provided by the Texas School Safety Center.
Thank you. You're here to help me with my accommodations. The Texas State School Safety Center, they'd sent out this information a while back to register for a training called Staying Safe School Safety Response Training, and received that email and that communication. And so Chief Blakelock and I, we both attended this training. And essentially what it comes down to, it's a curriculum that they've created where it comes down to alert, run, hide, fight, avoid, deny, defend, etc. Basically to where it's going to be teaching the children. And it's a pretty heavy topic, pretty harsh topic, and it's one that we feel that we need to go to the training to get the information to feel if it's even suited for our school district and our children, just because of how sensitive it is, as they say, or for a lack of a better way of putting it, perhaps abrasive. And so we also thought that if we didn't go to it, we would be doing ourselves a disservice. And then a big part of it is it has to have committee approval in order for us to be able to attend said training. So that's why we have it here and why it's on the agenda for us to consider, for you all to consider, to give us approval to go to the training. And I do know that Chief Blakelock had some information in regard to that from attending that little snippet of information that they provided to us.
Yeah, we've been teaching civilian response to active shooter events for several years now to staff and community. Where it has not been taught is directly to kids. And so we want to attend this training because I want to know how they implement that when we teach our staff that they're in charge of the kids. When there's an event like that and that kids should follow their direction, then when you start teaching kids a curriculum, we have to make sure that teachers are still able to control the kids and have them do what they need to do to keep them safe. And so we want to see how that's going to be implemented, as well as they do. Civilian response to active shooter events has specific language, and they change that in this training a little bit. We want to make sure that by attending this training, we can make sure that there's not going to be any confusion or anything like that moving forward. So I think the training would be beneficial to attend.
Our attendance at the training does not commit us to
not at all
implementing it. It's
correct.
And who would attend the training?
We would have to figure that out. We would have to send at least 3 people because they do tier it from high school, junior, and elementary. for how they implement said curriculum. And then another thing is they were not shy from saying that there have been several school districts that they brought this to that just flat out said, no, we're not doing it. And so, but I'd like to go at least see what it's about before we just say no.
When you say 3 people, do you, I know the students are included in people that they're training. Are you taking a student with you to train?
No, it will not be. Because this is essentially going, it's a train the trainer thing. And so if we decide to do it fully, it would be us implementing the program, bringing it back to the school district. So no, we would not bring students to this.
How long has this program been around?
Oh, that's a good question.
Alert's been around since 2013. This particular curriculum is brand new.
Yes.
Yep.
Craze has been around since 2015, 16. But the premise of this is brand new.
I saw the website, I saw it's implemented or supported by one of the moms of one of the recent school shootings. I can't remember which school it was. So it's kind of similar to their story, and their child was pretty impactful in the same time.
Mhm.
So today's, our vote here today is just for us to decide to send to the two of you?
It really comes down to you all, the Safety and Security Committee approving that we sign up for the training. That's really what it is.
Just sending our adults to the training to learn more.
Yes.
in
Is
the
it a
future.
train the trainer?
It
Or
is.
just an orientation?
It is, the curriculum will be offered as a 6-hour train the trainer session at all the region centers. So of course, we would go to Huntsville for it at the time that they have set up to provide the training.
I'm extremely comfortable with it. It's like the guru on alert for everything. I've been working with Captain Hook at his team for now 2 years with alert, making that a big focus of what the county's doing on our response. Just getting the orientation to the training trainer will really give you guys the eye opener whether this is going to fit for the kids or not. The kids probably saw some of this. I mean, back in my day, we saw some of this, but the run fight hype model.
And it's a little abrasive, and even in the pared down version that we use now in Craze, which is the avoid, deny, and defend, is that language is still a little abrasive. So I mean, if this is not going to work, it's great to send 3 and find out. If it's going to work and you can use it, great. But as Captain Hook could say, and Chief Blaylock, you're an alert instructor, you can pair this as well. So you can find some best practices in this training that the district can develop in addition to in-house stuff as well. So I think it's a great idea. I'll be glad to offer that motion, Dr. Nelson.
Okay, so we have a motion to go ahead and have our folks be trained. Could we take a second and then go to questions? That'd be all right. Can I get a second on that? A second? All right, perfect. All right. Ms.
Thank
Nelson,
you.
go ahead.
So I think you mentioned some other programs in it, and I don't know what they were called, CERT, I think.
Alert, yeah.
And Craze, thank you. I know you mentioned that we're using some other programs. Is that the programs that we're using currently?
So alert is big, and I don't want to step on the chief's toes, but alert is more law enforcement centric or first responder type training.
Okay.
And that program that school teaches is the alert school, and they've developed additional curriculum like Craze, which is the civilian response to active shooter.
Okay.
Which is what we would teach teachers and parents and how to handle an active shooter event as a civilian. And this would more likely be another acronym that would be developed based for student-based enrichment on the program. They have
regarding-
others too. I mean, Alert School has multiple levels of curriculum that have different
Okay.
acronyms for what it's teaching and the target audience. So.
Regarding our district specifically, can you expand upon what exactly it is that we do here?
I have not seen this curriculum personally, but it's based off the Alert and Craze model, so it would be more student-oriented, I would assume, based on what I can read from this. That would be a great thing. It's extremely difficult. Just to give you an example, we have a curriculum under the Alert umbrella called AIR, Active Attack Integrated Response. When law enforcement goes in and handles an active shooter event, they then are tasked with having to triage and do a number of things as police officers, as well as dealing with the assailant. We've developed this new curriculum, AIR, to allow first responders from fire and EMS to join law enforcement in the warm and hot zone to respond to that incident, to provide that better medical care and allow law enforcement to deal with the law enforcement-centric things. If you didn't have it, fire and EMS would go into a crazy zone like that with potential shooting going on or the threat of a shooting going on, and not have any idea how to interact with law enforcement and know what they're tactically wanting to do to protect them and allow them to do their job. And this would be very similar to that, where students would know what the teacher knows. The teacher's gone through craze, you've taught the teacher's specifically given them instructions on how to handle an active shooter, a threat that's emerging, and the students are nervous, and the teacher's given them instructions, and the students don't know what to do. So this would help give the students a basic level of information that would give them enough knowledge to respond to the teacher's instructions based on theirs, in my opinion. That's how I see it happening.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm for as much information as we can possibly get.
The other piece of this, I think, is part of what we have to pay attention to is just understanding based on grade level where threats come from. Because unfortunately, you think about a secondary campus, are typically internal threats. And so there is a point where overtraining students may actually create a situation where you are giving somebody that may have had bad intentions a route to know exactly how everyone will respond and attack us that way. So that's part of looking at this, right? We have to look at it from every angle. So, great question.
I would imagine they take that into consideration,
Yes, I'm sure.
you know,
Absolutely.
in not making it be where we give away all our secrets.
Yes, I'm sure, absolutely. So, okay, so we had a motion and a second. All those in favor, show by raising your hands, we're sending our guys to training. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Ethan. Do you know when that training is? Are they scheduled it?
It's scheduled, and I want to say it's either January or February.
Okay.
Hold me on that, but now that we have the approval, we'll sign it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, item 3 is receive information regarding bond funding allocated for district-wide safety and security. And so, as we talked about opening the meeting here, we are fortunate to have some bond funds available. We also have some grant funding available, and we're gonna learn a little bit more about that as we roll into this. What I would remind you about bond funds, we have $35 million of bond funds, and part of what we spoke to the bond planning committee about regarding safety is they could allocate $10 million, they could allocate $200 million. It would all be spent. It would all be spent, on things that would help to improve situations in our campuses. But even with that, none of it would guarantee. And they had to make decisions. We have a couple of bond planning committee members here, and the number that they settled on was $35 million, which is a significant amount of money. Although I would tell you, when you begin to think about, 75 campuses over 4 years, $35 million does not stretch nearly to the level that you would think that it would. So we're going to have decisions that we have to make, but part of what we told the community was that money would spread out over the whole campus, or the whole district, all campuses. But one of the things to remember, and I believe it's the case also with the grant that Mr. McCord is going to share, is no bond funds can be used for people or salary. So whatever decisions we make with bond funds, we have to understand there also could be a budget implication in that as well. I'll just give you an example, right? If we said we want to go to all electronic locks throughout the district, every door, electronic locks, okay? The bond funds could pay for the installation of those locks and to purchase them and get them installed and all that. But it would not pay for the people that we would need to hire to run that program for the tens of thousands of doors in the school district and who would manage it, all the things. We would have to have people to do that. Same thing you think about like metal detectors. You want to have metal detectors? Okay, you have to have people to man those. You pay for the metal detectors, you can't pay for the people. So it's just, those are all things that we have to think about as we begin to make recommendations for how to spend bond funds, is to make sure we don't overcommit ourselves on a maintenance and operations side, because as we know, we are operating out of our fund balance presently. So there's not a lot of room on that side of the house either. But our team has done a lot of great work to try to get more money into the system. There was a competitive bid process that I would say we won because our guys Mr. McCord and Ethan and everybody involved did such a great job writing the grant. You want to tell us about this grant, Chris?
Yes, yes. So I'll segue. First off, echo Dr. Knoll. Thanks for coming out on a somewhat blustery day to be a part of this. We appreciate it. So I'm going to hand it over momentarily to Mr. Foster, who's going to speak about potential uses of our bond funds for safety and security. Before we can really tell that story, we have to stop and talk about Chapter 61 of the Commissioner's Rules concerning school facilities, because these are rules that we have to follow. They've been updated, and there's a little bit of a story to tell here first, but it directly applies to what Mr. Foster is going to speak about. So effective August of 2024, this coming August, we have to be completely compliant regarding these upgraded rules. So as it applies to what I'm talking about and one of the reasons we're here today, you can say it like this. And so I'm going to try to synthesize about 3 state webinars, about 4 state PowerPoint presentations, and many lines of code into 60 seconds. And that if you imagine a school building, the outside of the school building, the perimeter doors, if they have a glass insert in the perimeter door, which a lot of ours do, and the immediate adjacent glass windows outside those doors, just the immediate windows beside the glass doors, those by August of 2024 have to have impact-resistant film, or they have to be behind an enclosed area, an enclosed secure area. So the next question would be to ask is, what is the definition of a secure enclosed area as it applies to a school? So if you think of a standard school, think of an elementary school, and you've got multiple sides of an elementary school. You may have a back of the school, and the side of the school may be a bus ramp. And then you have the front of the school where people come in and out. So the secured area normally will be at the back of the school. It's hard to make an enclosed, fenced-in area where you have the front of the school, because you need people to get in and out of the school, obviously, or the side of the school where the bus ramp is. So what we normally do and what we've worked to do is create enclosed, secured areas to meet Chapter 61, and that is done by adding 6-foot slatted fencing that goes around an area. So Mr. Barton is going to show a slide of what 6-foot slatted fencing looks like. So you'll see these portions of a school. You'll see the egress gates. We are required by Chapter 61 to have egress gates that allow people to leave in the case of something happening. But you can see the fence is made to be anti-scaling, and it is 6-foot black galvanized. I'm a little biased, but it looks pretty good, and it looks pretty classy. And so we've really had no complaints, which is an impressive endeavor. But so what we have to do is around the building have 6-foot slatted fencing enclosed, and we will normally do that encapsulating maybe portable buildings, where children can go back and forth from the portable building to come into the building, which happens a lot, and be completely behind an enclosed area that is secure. And then normally, like I said, the front will probably have impact-resistant film, and maybe on the bus ramp side, impact-resistant film. So to fast forward to February of this year, we applied for and we were awarded the School Safety Standards Grant. We were giving $2.8 million. With that $2.8 million, even though $2.8 million won't buy you what it was when I was a kid, we were able to encapsulate with fencing 27 elementary schools behind 6-foot slatted fencing, and you've probably seen it, and get a good portion done on 3 other schools. So that was with the $2.8 million we received in the spring. We have worked hard over the summer. Kudos to Ethan, Easy, Marshall, and Dana Boyer. And we recently were elated to find out that we received $10.1 million as part of the Safety and Facility Enhancement Grant Cycle 1, also known as the SAFE Grant Cycle 1. There's a SAFE Grant Cycle 2 that will come out in the spring. There will be less money awarded than that. It is not a competitive grant. It will be a formulaic grant. Our plans are to take the money of the $10.1 million and ensure that we have all outside perimeter exterior glass doors and the immediate adjacent glass doors surrounding those installed with impact-resistant film. So that will allow us to be completely Chapter 61 compliant. We plan to do that well ahead of the August deadline. So we're excited about that. Marshall, Schrader, and maintenance is on point. They are handling and coordinating the installation of the film. And the remaining money that is not allocated for film can be allocated for 6-foot slatted fencing. So what we intend to do is encapsulate the remaining elementary schools of the 27, not the 27 that we've already completed, but the remaining elementary schools and the remaining intermediate schools is our goal, to have them fencing and the impact-resistant film, and have that done hopefully early in the summer. So that's our plan. So that's about 8 hours of webinar I tried to summarize. But so remember, it's only the doors, the glass doors that are on the exterior of the building and the immediate adjacent windows that are of a sufficient size that someone could crawl or get through. So that's what it is. It is not all the exterior windows, because there may be a scenario where you need to get out in the case of a building. So that is our plan, and we will be completely compliant once the impact-resistant film is installed. So, hey, we are really, really excited. We expected to be awarded quite a bit of money. We didn't expect to be awarded that much money. And to brag on Marshall and Dana, the state was actually having some difficulty figuring out how to figure out the linear footage and make it work. And they called us, and Marshall and Dana talked to them, and then they finished the grant. So we were happy with that, and we're excited. And we think it's going to make a difference for our kids.
Absolutely.
So this is a state grant?
It is a state grant. This is SAFE Grant Cycle 1. Cycle 2 was originally supposed to come in February, but now they're just saying spring. There was $1.1 billion total. SAFE Grant Cycle 1 to all the school districts in Texas, they allocated $800 million. So there's roughly $300 million left to be allocated as part of Cycle 2 on a formulaic basis to all the school districts left in the state. I have no idea what that formula would be. Dana and I tried to do some math, and we're hoping for $1 million in the next round. We'll see. So we're excited, elated, in fact.
This is part of the House bill that just did all the safety and
It's
security
part of it.
upgrades. Yes.
So
that's
we're
the one that
excited.
I referred to in a board meeting.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So, so having said all that, I wanted to get, I felt like we needed to tell you that for the perimeter to segue into what Mr. Foster is going to talk about.
Before
Yes.
you segue, I do have one quick question. This is for every school in the district,
We'll
not
touch every school.
every single
The
school.
impact-resistant film will be in every school.
But the fencing is...
We'll work our way up.
Okay.
Yes, and we hope to be able to encapsulate every elementary school and every intermediate school. But remember, it doesn't go around the whole school. It's not an embassy.
Right.
It's just creating a secure area. So,
Okay.
backyard or side yard,
Keep the
it
dog.
depends on the make of the building.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Chief, is this the film that, did you guys test this film out and at Conroe High in the annex before it got torn down? You want to just briefly mention that? That was a neat opportunity y'all had, right?
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have the opportunity to spend a few days testing that, and I wish I would have brought videos, because you could see officers attempting to get through windows. It was virtually impossible. It took a very long time, and that's what we want to do. We want to delay somebody who's trying to get in that doesn't belong in there till we can have the law enforcement response, and that stuff is phenomenal. Officers don't ever want to come across it again.
So just to kind of catch you up on that, we had a building at Conroe High, end of life, as part of the construction over there. We were going to tear the building down. So before tearing the building down, we applied the film so that our officers could go in and get this experience with, and damaging the building was not an issue. It was getting torn down anyway, so that was a great training opportunity.
They used metal bars, they used rocks, they used everything they could find that somebody might use to try to get in, and they're just very thankful they have keys to our buildings. So.
Yeah. All right, so we will transition now to Mr. Foster, and he's going to share with us, just as we have gone through meeting with different levels of staff to begin to look at ideas of how areas that the staff feels like the safety money could be spent. And then we also, open it up to the committee. If you have any other ideas of things for us to examine and go look at, we can do that as well. Mr. Foster, you want to share with us where we are?
Indeed. So thanks for allowing me to speak to you this afternoon. So we did include $35 million in the bond referendum that passed in November. But as Dr. Knoll had mentioned, safety is a journey. So we've been on this journey for a while. The 2019 bond referendum had a safety and security package in it that that went district-wide. All of our major projects incorporated those concepts. Anything that did not have a major project on it got a separate project for safety and security, which we'll be wrapping up over the next 12 months. So having been there, we want to continue that journey. So part of our conversations today are, do we continue with the same or a few additions to that journey, or are there other ideas out there we want to entertain? I am in a little bit of a pressure situation because we are currently designing projects for the 2023 bond. Our first round of buildings bid in January, which is not very far away. And then we'll be going in the ground with shovels in March following a February approval of those. The first 2 shovels in the ground are 2 new elementary schools. So whatever this committee offers directions upon, we look to incorporate that direction into those projects and every other project following that. And we've got 18 of them that are in the process of getting ready for advertisements currently, hiring all the architects and the design firms to put those into place. So we've got a little bit of an urgent need to get some direction. So that's my application of pressure. Happy to comply with anything or involve the discussions. I'm sure there's more homework to be done following this meeting. But the things our staff, as we got together and talked about where we had been and where we want to continue going, access control, which is the card readers, the things that help us eliminate physical keys from the hands of people, because keys are hard to maintain. The cards are easy to shut down and renew. Exterior is one focus. Interior is a secondary focus. Exterior would be where I think our committee, our internal staff would want to begin the process to eliminate exterior keys from our vocabulary for general staff. But that, what it really amounts to, there's approximately, this is kind of an average, of about 20 card readers additional will needed for every campus. High schools need more, elementaries need less, but generally speaking across the entire district, it adds about 20 card readers per campus. And then we also want to look at the idea of parking lot gates so that we can shut down parking lots in the event there is an emergency, or even shut down for the weekend to keep nefarious activities from happening in our empty parking lots, because some of them are pretty secluded depending on what area of the district you're in. We want to continue, and we will also need to continue, I guess, almost any option involves life cycle replacement and upgrades for security cameras, and then the additional needs as we find areas that need additional surveillance throughout the district. And a new topic of conversation is secure corridors. So our recent changes to our interior door policy for our teachers is lock the doors and close them. So at the elementary levels in particular, that creates a lot of isolation where they're used to community. So we're working on a plan with our new elementary prototype that will allow for each grade level, and that's not a great description, but just call it a grade level corridor, to be secured by itself, so the grade level can have a community and have their classroom doors open again. We have a general idea how to spread that throughout the district, but we want to talk about that here in committee.
And Dr. Winkler, would you mind just talking about that a little bit, kind of how you got there, and just the conversations with the elementary folks on the benefits of that? And
so throughout the time that we've had to have our doors locked, which is great, we don't want to compromise student safety, but comments that we hear from administrators and really teachers is that it's very isolating to shut your door, and every time somebody needs to come into your classroom, you've got to get up, go and lock the door. Administrators are finding keys. So there's so many benefits to having the doors locked, and we don't negate that at all. But what we were looking to do is to create layers, like Chief had said. Safety really is about layers. And so in looking at our new floor plan, we tried to look at pods, essentially, where there was a bathroom in that hallway, so a child wouldn't have to leave to go to the bathroom. It kind of eliminated kind of walking around the school a little bit more. But if you were to come up to a grade level pod, so to speak, you would key card into that area. Of course, we would have contingency plans, when you go to the library, when you go to the nurse, but we have that now, especially with our portables and students needed coming into the building from a portable. We also have schools that if you're familiar with Ford Elementary or Haley Elementary, that floor plan in its younger day had 2 doors at the beginning of the hallways. And so we kind of talked about, like, how would that look if we maybe retrofitted some of those? Because it could really essentially do what we're doing with this new building. So if you take Ford Elementary, I used to work at Ford Elementary, and we would close our doors if we were having something out in the hallway to kind of keep the noise down, but to keep everyone in that particular area. And so we're looking to do that again, and to maybe have a plan to retrofit some of those campuses. We do have students that will go out into the hallway to work with a teacher on something, or they might need to spread out for a project, and that would really help facilitate some of that. We share kids during intervention time, and so that creates a little bit of an issue when you're trying to share kids and all the doors are locked and we're trying to unlock doors. And we do feel like it's not only a safety thing, but it will increase some of our instructional time. Nothing significant within a day, but you add up all those minutes and it really does make a huge impact, because when you're losing 5 minutes a day, multiple times throughout the day, that adds up. So that was the premise, to help our teachers and our students to have a little bit more community. That doesn't mean they wouldn't necessarily have their doors locked, but it opens up the possibility that they could open it and shut it very quickly if it was locked, or for a special occasion, they would have that main door locked, and it would add an extra layer of security. Did that answer?
Yes, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Indeed. And our last bullet point is really speaking to safety and communications equipment. So our police department, our buses, our district staff, our radio equipment, as always, has life cycle functions, end of life, into batteries recharging, programming, additional staff coming on. So we want to talk about including those systems in this conversation, so we can make sure we at least pay attention to those things that need to be ordered and reordered, and hopefully not in mass. Hopefully we can cycle those so that we're not doing a whole department at a time. But that really is the gist of our why I'm here, is to facilitate or help answer questions on any of these or any other topics, and we can explore over the course of today's meeting.
Easy, and I know you don't have a full budget set for any of these line items, but just for reference for us, like, I don't know what could any of these things cost? Like, if you just had to take a guess, spreading it out over the district.
So generally
You're probably
speaking,
not going to guess. You probably got a spreadsheet.
well, I just have to find the day we wrote it down. But the like access control, for example, each door, when we talk about adding 20 per campus, gets into more systems like additional switches, additional wiring, additional controllers. But we thumbnail about $5,000 per opening when you do them in mass like that. Individually, they're not that expensive, but when you add another enterprise system, then you've got to add those back-end programs with them. Parking lot pipe gates themselves, they're not real expensive, $2, $3, $4, depending on the side of the campus. They're about, probably another $5,000, $6,000 per driveway, so to speak. Security cameras themselves, individual cameras and systems, easily, you could allocate, $25,000, $30,000 per building and only replace a few things that have died. When we're doing safety and security upgrades for the 2019 bond, for example, when we upgraded an entire system, we would probably spend about $200,000 per elementary school on cameras, servers, and upgrades to those systems. And the more cameras you add, the bigger that number gets. A lot of those systems have been fully upgraded at this point, but we would be looking at the life cycle replacement of individual components. The servers themselves that store all of our video, for example, are run about $18,000, $20,000 each. They hold a lot of data, so it's not so we don't replace them annually. They're on a long-term life cycle, but the ones that are 5, 6, 7 years old, we need to start planning on their replacement as we move through. The secure quarters themselves, when we look at retrofitting other campuses, that is another access-controlled opening plus the wall, door frame, and hardware for it. So each one of those openings is worth probably about $15,000 each. When you look at a campus like Ford, it's pretty straightforward. There's about 6 of those openings at that campus. When you look at some of our more modern flex campuses, it could be as many as 20 because of the kind of the circular hallway pathways we've made over the years. So it's putting a number on everything is a bit of an exercise. If we chose to do some of each of those, we would be in excess of 35
I was
million.
going to say, it sounds like you
Correct.
spent about 50, and I was over here just
Thereabouts.
doing math. Yeah.
When we look at, I don't know if Chief Lakelock can talk about the cost of radios, but
Right now, you look at, for one police radio that an officer carries on their belt, you're talking about $5,000 in cost. In-car radios are just under $5,000, yeah.
What about I always refer back to Grand Oaks because it stands out to me because we had to add it on the fly, but what is the cost in the buildings easy when we go in and do the repeaters and those type of things for emergency communications in a building?
so what we did during the 2019 bond referendum was worth about $1.10 per square foot. And now at the end of the 2019 bond projects, which the final bond project goes to the board in December for approval, at the end of 2024, we should have every campus in the district with a local radio, which is our district level radio repeaters, and the first responder repeater system in them. Those systems, like at Grand Oaks, that system was a little over $500,000, and that was in 2016 when we put that price on it. But there's been more competition in that marketplace. It's held the overall budget cost for those of about $1 per square foot. If we look into something like cell phone signal repeating, that's a much different animal. We would need to either decide to go with specific carriers or try to be agnostic, which is less reliable, but that adds probably another 50 cents per square foot on one of those whole systems.
For $1.50.
Yeah, for $1.50. Yeah, at a brand new campus, yeah, that would.
So so that's really the gist of what you have, right? So we're happy
Yes, sir.
to open it up to everybody for questions or comments, or if you have other ideas of things that you'd like us to look at and get some more information on, we can do any of those. Jason,
Yeah, I had recently spent some time with Splendor ISD, and they're looking at a product to upgrade with their cameras. It's an existing system upgrade. It's about $100 per camera. It's called Zero Eyes. It's a weapons detection AI technology. They're currently only able to afford looking at exterior cameras in places around their stadiums, but I not only got to see the demonstration there on their campus with their team, but went to a conference not 2 weeks later and saw it in action, and got to actually see a live demonstration where they pulled a weapon out of the holster and it went off, and everyone that was set up to get the alarm got the alarm. And then they had a guy walk into the room with several officers with weapons in their holster and everything, and it detected that guy, and within 3 seconds sent the alarm out. So something really cool. Something be glad to put the chief in contact with the vendor if you are interested in it. But that is something that, as we see a lot of these cases, and I saw a lot of video that the vendor has to show where they're in several schools across the country now where they've had students that will hold a cell phone. There's some TikTok challenge where they play with the phone, and just the mannerism and how they hold the phone mimics a weapon. They get alerts like that. But it's not only does the alert happen, but a human looks at that video to determine if it's a threat or if it's a false alarm before pushing the panic button and going to the next level of response. So it's a dual layer. AI detects it, and then the human reviews the threat. Something that was really cool. And then they've had a lot of instances where students, apparently another TikTok challenge, were bringing weapons to school, and the weapons were detected within seconds of coming out of their backpacks. Officers or administrators were notified, and they were able to solve the problem before it became a problem. So that's one thing. Y'all answered my question I had on the repeaters, because
And I've actually been in contact with them in the last 2 days.
Yeah, Zero Eyes is great.
They reached out, and we've been discussing a meeting, so.
Yeah.
Is that the organization I connected you guys to like a couple months ago? The AI group?
no, it's a different vendor.
It wasn't Zero Eyes?
No, I don't think so. But part of the, in any of these ideas, be it cameras, AI, all those things, part of what we all have to remember is we would consider concepts,
Correct.
Before we can engage with any there is a process
Yeah.
or any,
Yeah.
like, we don't get to just say
To-
like.
to-
we
to be
did
clear, I'm
Zero Eyes,
not
sounds great,
indifferent
we're
to
gonna go
Zero
them.
Eyes. There's
We
4 or
have
5
to-
players.
Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
have to put out a request for.
A proposal,
all
yeah.
AIs,
Yeah.
like the one you had mentioned you'd sent, like, there's a lot of different companies out there, so we
There
can
is,
send out,
yeah.
if it's something that you're all interested in, we could send out a request for all of those companies to come in. They have to compete and legally
Yeah.
win our business, anybody that would be involved, but if that's something.
It's up to the district. I thought it was a great idea. I understand the procurement process, so I'm not indifferent one way to one vendor over another. I've seen it at least more than once with different vendors. So the technology's there. The expense is small comparatively because it uses the existing camera system you already have in place. It just adds another back layer server that would take that camera feed and feed it off-site for the
Really
review.
software.
It's software, yes, it's not hardware. So if it's something the district's interested in doing, I would support that as an early threat detection warning system for our campuses.
Ethan, you've looked into a few of those, is that right, or
We have, I mean, just like.
we get a microphone?
And Mr. McCord just said, oftentimes what happens is our size is our worst enemy. And so when you have 15,000 cameras, how much did you say it was per camera? And so it's a lot of money. And so
An annual subscription, one of them I always.
it
look at,
was,
right?
yes. It's not something where they come in and install hardware and then we have it and we maintain it. It's subscription based. And so you're looking at, I think it was around $150,000 a campus per year, or for a high school is what it would be, for some of the AI stuff to have installed. And that wasn't even at every particular entrance. It was just at specific ones.
But to be fair, like, we haven't gone through a procurement process either, so we
Correct.
haven't made them compete. Like, that's
Correct.
just them
Yeah,
throwing out
there were
numbers, we talked
multiple,
to somebody.
there were multiple funding opportunities too that I had forwarded on to you guys as well, a couple months back that they had worked out.
And the state may come forward with more grants,
Yeah.
but right
Absolutely.
now the grants we have are really specific, and they haven't been in that area.
Yeah, fair enough.
On our 15,000, Ethan, is that what you said? We have like 15,000 cameras?
50,000 cumulative views.
Okay, so are those just recording or is someone looking at those?
No, they're just recording. We don't have,
So they're really not doing anything security-wise but recording something that happens?
People can look at them, but they are always recorded.
Right, but I mean, that's what I'm saying is that they're not really helping us with building security or early detection or something like that.
we have some in the front offices that are actively monitored by staff in the front office, but like, to think about like at a high school,
Right.
we don't have like the master room with all, and there are places that do this, like, some school districts do this, that have, like the big wall and have 3 people sitting there watching. We do not have that. So our cameras function more as a deterrent, and kids know they're there, and then they are the number one asset for principals on the back end of things. But like to catch something in the moment, we for the most part, unless it's the front door, walking in the parking lot, there's probably not somebody watching.
So that's where I was getting at, that when Trustee Nelson and I were at the training or somewhere where we learned about this AI type of service and security, to us, we were like, that is something we should be looking at, because, I mean, of course, we have to be worried about the expense and so forth, but yes, the recordings are great for backup, and but it's not really, quote, our security. And so it's something that I think we definitely need to look at and consider. And Dr. Winkler, you saw me down here. I saw you looking at me as I was nodding. That is absolutely true. As an educator, and when it started happening for me was when I was teaching middle school. It didn't happen in the elementary, but in elementary, kids are going back and forth between classrooms all the time. But something else besides just the security issue and the isolation, I hated the fact that my door was locked, and I was already the only person that taught what I was teaching. so I felt isolated that way. But then when you're locked in your room, you have no camaraderie throughout the day except for those kids coming in and out. That's number one. And number two, we all know that no matter how hard, even in our own homes, you can't regulate temperatures very well. And so you have some rooms that are really cold and some that are really hot. And by being able to have those doors open, you end up with a little more airflow. So
Yeah,
that's
and it's,
another.
it's actually the bigger campuses, that bigger layout, like a Patterson Elementary or some of our bigger flex schools like Broadway, their rooms aren't necessarily right across from each other, which adds to that. And Mr. Foster's crew has fixed that too. So we've also talked about where door placement would be for another added layer of safety and monitoring students, but also being able to see somebody, an adult, during the day. So we're really excited about the new floor plan and retrofitting some of those campuses.
I like the idea.
And I just want to add to it, when we start talking about bond money and how bond money is spent, anything that's a software subscription, ongoing subscription, I think would have a bond restriction against. So just,
We would just need to budget that money.
correct.
Right. Okay, fair enough. But we could just consider it in the budget process.
Could it also, I'm not sure though, could it also be something that is, instead of spending bond money on that, could we use grant money towards that and flip-flop spending one way or the other so that we're getting, I mean, it's just something that I'm asking as far as we should be considering that because it's all money. We just have to figure out which way it can be used and dispersed and allocated.
Correct. I mean, grants themselves, I mean, sometimes come with restrictions, but bond in particular is, typically one-time expenses for capital type improvements.
But yeah, we may be able to supplant and move it a little bit. Absolutely. So we have AI as one of the other, something to consider. Any additional ideas that you all would like us to explore further?
Dr. Noel, I don't have any new ideas. I just want to say a special note on behalf of Access Control because it has completely transformed the way we work and allows kids that are in portables or need to get in behind an enclosed area, that need to get in the building, our people, to be able to control when they work. You can't say enough positives about what the badges have done for the way we operate as a school. It makes an enormous difference.
And I know we've discussed easy, like the all-in costs, like to say, if we were going to build a new building and we wanted every door to be electronic locked instead of keys at all, what does that add to the construction cost of the building?
It does, and when you say every door, you're talking about every classroom door,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at, like our elementary plans have 60 classrooms when you take fine art specials and the gen ed classrooms. There's a handful of SGIs and other things that would probably need to be included in that, so you're probably 70-ish doors per campus at $5,000 per door in addition to what we're currently doing. So you've got, what's that, $350,000 just in the access control portion.
And we're probably not there yet. This is something we've been talking about
Correct.
for years because
Now, in 5 or 6 years, you're going to have to replace that equipment.
absolutely.
At
Yeah,
another
they
3 or
age
4 or
out,
$500,000 per.
And you got to have a team of people to manage it.
Yeah.
And there, multiple districts have been doing electronic keys for 15 years. Every door, like that's what they do. We, in our nature, we are a little slower to move on things. That's okay. I think this step of getting the outside doors done is a logical movement in that direction. But when schools are already so expensive, you think about a high school at $380 million. If you were you'd probably add $3 million to the price of that just to do the doors, and that's a tough pill to swallow. So.
Just real quick, Jason, I know you talked about the AI group that you were suggesting. The one that it took me a second to find it, but the one that I was telling the guys about was 21st Century AI. So I think there probably is a few out there, but
There's more than a dozen out there that have
that one
similar
I had
products.
spoken with extensively. So big fan of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of the things that happens when you pass a bond is every vendor in the world has emailed us in the last month. So they all are, they're out there. But I do think there are a lot out there, which is good, because then they have to compete with each other. And
Well, that makes
These guys were
competitive
around
bidding
before the
better.
bond.
yeah,
It certainly makes competitive bidding better.
Indeed.
Yeah, so.
all right. So we have, what else? Anything else? All right. Mr. Foster, so then that really gives you direction on this, just keep moving in your direction on the new construction then, because I don't know that the AI changes the way you build a school. It's really more on the backside. You're going to have cameras in the schools anyway, right? So,
New builds, I mean, I'm really more concerned about the retrofits and how we address all the existing buildings in the district. So if we are going to, for example, move forward with new buildings having 100% exterior door access control, do I apply that backwards to existing buildings? Because that flavors at least 54 campuses on my current list of projects, so.
so does anybody have any, we're not really asking for a vote today. I'm just asking if does anybody have any negative feelings towards that idea of what Mr. Foster has presented here as far as the, considering retrofitting of hallway doors, and then for the pods that Dr. Winkler spoke of, and then the exterior door, continuing that process, exterior door electronic locks. Okay. Good?
All right, so I mean, just for my action item and record, we'll move forward as we're planning our projects with this list of items. We can touch every building in the district with this list of items, because secure corridors don't necessarily apply to a high school, for example. But we do have the ability to touch every campus with this, and we will work to stretch that money as far as we can get it.
Okay. And then what we'll do is move forward on the AI side, talk to some different vendors so that we can just see what's out there. So we may know enough to even, if we want to put a committee together, we may have a subcommittee out of this committee to come together and hear the presentations of a few of those folks and go from there. So
Great.
we get with purchasing and all the legal side of all those things we can look at as well. So, all right.
One quick question, real
Yes.
quick. Just regarding the grant that you said we just received, is there any reporting or anything that goes with the safety grant with the film and the fencing? Is there anything that we need to report to them in the end to show that we need to do?
No, all of it was done at the beginning. We put
Okay.
vendors and quotes, et cetera.
Perfect.
And that's how we allocated the money.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that very much. All right, let's move on to item 4, receive information regarding Conroe ISD fentanyl awareness. Ms. Robertson, there you go. Maybe. They're finicky.
Good afternoon.
There you are.
With the ongoing fentanyl crisis in our country, we continue to promote awareness of the dangers of fentanyl to our students and our community. And here are some of the actions that we've taken this fall. Health Services and our guidance and counseling, both of our websites contain substance use information that's available to our families about the dangers of fentanyl. We did use the TEA toolkit to develop a one pill kills information card. I have some here. And those were sent out to our high schools, junior high schools, and intermediate schools to be distributed as appropriate by the campus administrators, school counselors, and school nurse. We did collaborate with the American Heart Association and developed an informational flyer that we distributed to all of our school nurses. And we expanded naloxone availability and training to all of our Conroe ISD campuses this school year. If you remember, we began back in January of 23 with our junior highs and high schools, and we then this year in August expanded that down to all campuses now have naloxone on their site. And I want to share with Ms. Rodriguez about what guidance and counseling is doing.
Thank you. Well, during the month of October, we initiated a social media campaign where we used the TEA toolkit to create this campaign, and we shared it with the assistant soups who shared it with all the campuses, and we did that for the whole month of October. And we also did a community presentation, Hidden in Plain Sight, where we focus on substance use, warning signs, and preventative measures. And so that's some of the things that we've done.
Anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question, but Dr. Noel, if you give me a second, I'll just echo that Barbara and the whole team put together a lot of work, but this is a real issue. In fact, we talked about this at the last meeting. Mr. Benson chimed in, giving us some staggering information, but I'm just telling you, fentanyl, it's real. We've had to use Narcan on at least two occasions, and it's really a big deal and really important. So we can't do enough.
Yeah, I want to thank Barbara and Chris, everybody, Chief, everybody that worked on it, because our implementations of the medication to help save someone in distress was prior to any legislative action that forced us to be in that situation. That was completely being proactive on our part, and made a huge difference. And you think back to it. I know Barbara and I had a conversation earlier this week. You think about AEDs when we first started buying AEDs, and then now how many times we have used those to save lives, and then they were in the same situation with Narcan. So it's just a different world. Thank you for your leadership, Barbara.
Hey, Dr. Noel.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this in this venue, but we recently used an AED to potentially save a life. I don't think we talked about it with this group.
Share
Well,
not details, or not specific details, but share a little bit.
We had a young student at an elementary school go into distress within a classroom. Nurse reported and had to apply multiple rounds of CPR. I believe multiple uses of the AED. Barbara, you want to evoke more information on that?
And the student was revived.
It's taken to ICU and is okay.
Yes, because of the actions of the school nurse and the team there on the campus that responded, and they were ready to act when needed.
And a student with absolutely no prior history of
That's
this
correct.
problem.
Is that our fourth successful implementation of an AED in district history? I can think of.
Fourth that I do remember.
Four that I can think of, yes. So, pretty amazing. Great. Thank you all so much. Okay. Receive information regarding the implementation of RAVE 911.
So as you all know from previous meetings and then just through communication, we do have RAVE 911 implemented in the district. And just to keep you guys up to speed, it is fully implemented. All teachers have the ability to access the app, download it on their phones, and that does include all of our substitutes as well. Every single one of our facilities are geofenced that works with the program. And I can tell you that since it's been implemented, it has been used effectively several times, and it does increase the communication and letting everybody know actually what is going on. And for all purposes, I mean, it works, and it works well, and it's worked well for us on several occasions.
So an example maybe, and I might get this wrong, so y'all can correct me, but an example may be, you're at a junior high football game that's being played on a high school campus. Kid is injured, breaks his leg. Typically 911 would get called in that situation, and only the people on the field would know because they called 911 and the phone call was made. In that situation, if they hit RAVE, it still calls 911, but then everybody else is communicated with. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's actually an example that has happened in regard to athletics and football. And then, of course, when it's on that football field, like you said, versus just it being the caller and the person on the other end of 911, all of us that are on that thing to be notified, for lack of, I couldn't spit it out, we'll all know and then can be involved in that. So yes, I mean, it does increase communication and awareness.
I can say it for a fact it works because my son was one of those that you guys used the button on for a football injury on the field, and it's kind of odd, but the nurse and I both responded, and I was responding not as dad but as an EMT, so it does work. I would say, though, from the 911 perspective, though, we would ask that you guys don't test the system and encourage employees not to test it. We're getting a rash of false alarms right now. And on the 911 dispatcher side, we don't know what's real and what's not, especially if they use the assailant button. We've had 2 false alarm assailant depresses in districts, not CISD, thankfully, but and one was a private school. But if you push that out, I believe, Dr. Noel, you're going to get reached out to by our communication district to talk about that, because we're having an increased incidence number of false alarms. But if there is going to be some testing from the administration side or for employees training purposes, there's a way to notify us so we can turn off the geofence and put you guys in a test mode for that time period. But there's got to be open line of communication, so anything that comes out of it's not misconstrued as a test, but can be treated as real world if it is real world. Other than that, it is very effective. Do you know what the percentage of administrators and teachers are using it or downloading it?
The last, and of course, this is not, I mean, it's not going to be accurate, but the last time that I ran it, I mean, just a total number of employees that have fully completed, that does include in progress, just completed the download of the app, was over 5,000.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so more than close to 50% or better. Yeah. Yeah, good.
And then just to give Chief Blakelock, before I have to pass this mic down, his credit, and the training that we provided to our staff, and it's through video, the whole testing and making sure that we're using it for what it's intended for is in there. So
Okay, good.
that could be a testament to
why
our
we
lack
haven't
of
had one, yeah.
Yeah,
false
let's say
alarms.
this. Don't bury the headline.
Yeah,
There's been
knock
2
on wood,
instances.
yeah.
They weren't us.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they were not you guys.
exactly.
Well, and we actually worked with 911 and had a round of testing. We tested 3 different campuses, 3 different style buttons, one being an active assailant. And we sit down with 911 first. We sit down with the campuses. We work that process out so that everyone is aware. All of my police officers every single police officer gets notification if it's an active assailant. So we put out the notification to them so that we're not one of those on that on that list. But we successfully tested it at 3 different campuses, and of course, you all know we've used it successfully now several times as well.
But we're not immune. We could do it tomorrow.
Well, I mean, with that many users, anything's possible. But at the same time, so far, training's working and it's effective. We were excited. I was so excited to work with 911 and roll that out with them, and I'm thankful that the district took the onus to accept the program, because it does have some cost associated with it later down the road for the district. But I think it's going to save lives, and if we ever have to use it in active assailant, it's going to be a huge communication tool for 911 and then everyone on campus. So.
No doubt, and the next step for Rave 911 now is we're working with 911, and we'll be working with you, Jason, to bring active assailant alerts to outside law enforcement that are within a geographical area where that button may be pressed, so that it's not just our agency getting the alert, but the outside law enforcement, because we know if we have that type of event, it's going to be a multi-agency response. We want everyone there as fast as we can get them there. So that's phase 2 that we're working on now.
Yep.
Awesome. The Rave implementation has been a great example of what, how things are supposed to work with governmental agencies working together. You know, from the county to the 911 to the school districts, like everybody kind of coming together and pooling some resources, and the money coming in to help us implement up front. Like, it's been a nice example. So thank you for that. Absolutely. All right. Anything else on Rave? All right, now we're going to move to item 6, which is closed session. The School Safety and Security Committee will go into closed session pursuant to sections 551.076 and 551.089 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Any action, vote, or decision of the committee with regard to any matters discussed in closed session will be made when the committee returns to open session. The time is now 5:05. All right, the committee is now in open session. The time is 5:15 p.m. The next item on our agenda is item 7, to adjourn. So we thank you once again for being here and fighting the weather. Hopefully, as we exit tonight, maybe it's cleared up. I don't know. We shall see. But thank you, everyone, for your efforts. We appreciate you. Have a good evening. March or April, the next one? Okay. So we'll let you know in the spring as we move forward for the next meeting. Thank you.